Hulk Hogan once wrote a letter to his daughter, a letter she never opened until now. What she found inside left her frozen in shock, and her mother in tears online because it didn't just reveal his secrets, it exposed her too. In those pages, Hogan admits things no one expected, calling himself a liar, confessing to being a sex addict and uncovering truths that could tear apart whatever remains of their family. This isn't ordinary drama. It's something far more disturbing, a glimpse into the darkness behind the fame. Let's break it down: the silent pain of a daughter who finally learned the truth.
A complete liar. He is a sex addict.
Brooke Hogan didn't cry when news of her father's death spread. She skipped the WWE tribute and refused to open the letter he had written to her just days before he passed away. But when she finally did, her face turned pale. Because inside that envelope wasn't just a farewell, it wasn't just a father's last words, it was a confession, a bombshell filled with secrets he had never dared to speak. The truth written in that letter was so painful, so personal, that some members of the Hogan family are reportedly furious it was ever written. That single letter holds the power to destroy whatever legacy Hulk Hogan believed he had left. Hulk Hogan, born Terry Bollea, was once America's muscle-bound father figure, the man who turned wrestling into family entertainment and became a pop culture icon in yellow trunks. But behind the roar of the crowd and the trademark mustache was a broken family, one that had been falling apart long before the world realized it. And at the center of that divide was Brooke Hogan. Once a rising star who sang her way into fame through Hogan Knows Best, she went from being her father's biggest supporter to his most outspoken critic. Brooke, once daddy's girl, disappeared from his life, distant, silent, estranged, until the day she posted one message after his death. A message that left fans with more questions than answers. On July 29th, 5 days after Hulk Hogan died of cardiac arrest, Brooke shared a heartfelt post on Instagram titled, "My Dearest Daddy." In it, she revealed that she hadn't spoken to her father in nearly 2 years, that she didn't attend his wedding to Sky Daily, and that she wasn't even invited to the WWE tribute held in his honor. Her words were gentle, but carried a haunting weight. "We had a connection deeper than words," she wrote, "and yet I had to step away to protect my heart." Brooke also revealed that in 2023, she had voluntarily removed herself from her father's will, refusing any share of his $25 million fortune. No lawyers, no disputes, no fight, she simply walked away. She didn't explain why, at least not directly, but the truth has since surfaced. It was because of that letter, the one she received months earlier, but didn't open until after Hulk Hogan's death. According to multiple sources, Brooke physically recoiled the moment she read it. Family insiders say she turned pale as a ghost, and her husband revealed she ran from the room in tears, remaining silent for hours. What's even more unsettling is that the letter wasn't part of any legal document or estate plan. It wasn't filed through lawyers or attached to a will. It was handed to her privately by someone very close to Hulk, his wife, Sky Daily, and that alone speaks volumes. Because Brooke and Sky hadn't spoken since 2023. Brooke had skipped their wedding, writing online that she needed space to heal and find peace. But behind those words was a much darker truth. Brooke had warned her father about Sky, calling out what she believed were controlling influences surrounding him. She felt he was being isolated, that his medical choices, his business decisions, even his spiritual path were being steered by others. And when she realized she couldn't reach him anymore, Brooke made the painful choice to walk away, telling him simply, "I can't reach you anymore." That was the last time Brooke and her father ever spoke. What happened after that sounds like something straight out of a tabloid, but it's completely real. Just a few months later, Hulk Hogan and Sky Daily were baptized together at a church in Florida. Hogan called it the greatest day of my life and began openly embracing his born-again Christian faith, even sharing his spiritual transformation with the media. But behind closed doors, he started writing letters to the people he believed he had hurt, and one of those letters was meant for Brooke. He wrote it in January 2025, gave it to Sky in April, and Brooke didn't open it until July 25th. The question is, why wait so long? According to those close to her, Brooke had already said her goodbyes and wasn't interested in reopening old wounds. But what changed everything was discovering that the letter mentioned not only her, but also her children. Because by then, Brooke had become a mother. In January 2025, she gave birth to twins, Oliver Andrew and Molly Jean, and Hulk never met them, never asked about them. In the letter, he explained why, and what he wrote was chilling. It wasn't just an apology. It was a confession filled with dark secrets, including one of the most shocking betrayals of all, admitting to sleeping with Brooke's best friend. To understand the full story, we have to go back to 2007, when Linda Hogan filed for divorce after uncovering Hulk's alleged affair with Christiane Plant, Brooke's close friend and collaborator on her music career. The scandal tore the family apart, and years later, Linda would call Hulk a liar and a sex addict, accusing him of emotionally destroying her and their children.
You know what? It's so funny. I never really was like a big fame person, even though we did TV and we, had that whole life. I really like kind of being a hermit crab, so.
According to Christiane Plant herself, The affair took place when Hulk and Linda's marriage was already falling apart behind closed doors, but by then, the damage was irreversible. Plant even wrote an apology note to Brooke, publicly admitting, "I will never be able to fully forgive myself for this." For Brooke, the betrayal was unbearable. She posted a now-deleted message on MySpace that read, "When your best friend and one of your closest family members, people you've loved unconditionally since your first day on this earth, betray you together, you never forget the hurt. That wound never healed." Brooke would later say her father's actions during that time left deep emotional scars that never truly faded. And just as the family was beginning to recover from that trauma, another scandal struck one that would change Hulk Hogan's image forever. In 2012, a leaked video surfaced showing Hogan involved in a sex tape, along with him making shocking racial remarks about his daughter possibly dating a black man. The backlash was immediate. WWE severed ties with him, sponsors walked away, and the world watched as the once beloved image of Hulk Hogan, the All-American family man, crumbled before everyone's eyes.
A complete liar. He is a sex addict.
Brooke defended herself, but she never truly defended him. And it's that moment, that emotional fracture, which many believe Hulk Hogan tried to repair in his final letter. But the truth is, the Hogan family's troubles went much deeper than just a broken bond between a father and daughter. Their story became a tangled web of scandals, legal battles, and personal tragedies that would eventually bring down one of America's most famous families, the complete collapse of the Hogan dynasty. To understand how it all fell apart, we have to go back to the very beginning, to a time when Terry Jean Bollea was just a young wrestler struggling to make his mark. And Linda Claridge was the woman who would stand beside him as he transformed into the global superstar known as Hulk Hogan. The two met in the early 1980s and married on December 18th, 1983, in a wedding attended by wrestling icons like Vince McMahon and Andre the Giant. For nearly 24 years, they appeared to share a picture-perfect marriage, with Linda as the loyal wife while Hulk conquered the wrestling world and became a household name. Together, they had two children, Brooke, born in 1988, and Nick, born in 1990, and their family life was later showcased to millions through their reality show Hogan Knows Best. But beneath that glossy image of fame and success, cracks were already forming. The show that once portrayed them as a close-knit family actually magnified their problems. The constant cameras, the endless scrutiny, and the weight of Hulk's demanding career mixed with his increasingly controlling behavior began to erode their bond. Then came the first devastating blow, not from Hulk's professional life, but from the actions of his son. On August 26, 2007, 17-year-old Nick Hogan was involved in a horrific car crash in Clearwater, Florida, while driving a yellow Toyota Supra owned by his father. The accident happened around 7:30 p.m. on Court Street, where the speed limit was just 40 miles per hour, but Nick Hogan was reportedly driving far faster, somewhere between 60 and 90 miles per hour on a wet, rain-slicked road. He wasn't alone in the car. Riding with him was 22-year-old John Graziano, a U.S. Marine and close friend, who also worked as part of Nick's drifting team pit crew. What followed was nothing short of catastrophic. Nick lost control of the yellow Toyota Supra, and the car fishtailed before spinning across the road, slamming into a raised median, then crashing into a palm tree with devastating force. The vehicle was torn apart, wrapping around the trunk like paper. Witnesses and investigators later confirmed they weren't just speeding, they were racing another car that night, turning a moment of reckless thrill into a lifelong tragedy.
I was at the lowest point of my life. My personal life was destroyed. I was very mad at my daughter. I was upset over a situation that happened between her and her boyfriend, and I had no idea I was being taped. I was to the point where I wanted to kill myself.
While Nick Hogan escaped with only minor injuries and was released from the hospital the very next day, his passenger, John Graziano, wasn't as fortunate. John was critically injured and airlifted to the hospital, where he spent weeks in a coma. The impact had caused catastrophic damage, severe brain trauma, a fractured skull, and eye injuries that left him permanently disabled and in a vegetative state, dependent on lifelong care. The young Marine, who had proudly served his country, would never return to the life he once knew. The legal aftermath came quickly and hit hard. Nick was charged with reckless driving involving serious bodily injury, using a motor vehicle in the commission of a felony, operating a vehicle with a blood alcohol level over 0.02% as a minor, and having illegal window tint. On May 9th, 2008, he pleaded no contest and was sentenced to 8 months in Pinellas County Jail, 5 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and a 3-year suspension of his driver's license. To this day, he's not allowed to have contact with John Graziano, his best friend turned victim in one of the darkest moments of the Hogan family's history.
It's hard for me to think about. I'm sorry. It's,
Do you ever see him?
I've reached out and tried, but at this point I'm not allowed to visit John.
Do you understand why
Yes,
the family may not want you to see him?
Absolutely.
Does that hurt?
But the criminal charges were only the start of the Hogan family's downfall. The Graziano family filed a massive civil lawsuit against the Hogans, seeking compensation for John's lifelong medical care, which was expected to cost millions. In February 2010, Hulk Hogan reached a private settlement for an undisclosed amount, though reports suggest it was substantial enough to cover John Graziano's ongoing treatment. What truly shattered the family's public image, however, were the jailhouse phone calls released from Nick's time behind bars. These recordings, obtained through public records, exposed deeply unsettling comments that left fans stunned. In one particularly controversial call, Hulk Hogan suggested that karma from the crash might reincarnate their family as black people, a remark that foreshadowed the racism scandal that would haunt him years later. The stress from Nick's legal troubles, combined with the weight of the lawsuit and public backlash, pushed the Hogan household to its breaking point. But what came next would completely destroy what was left of Hulk and Linda's marriage. In 2008, Linda's publicist revealed that she had filed for divorce after discovering Hulk's affair with Christiane Plant, a woman who wasn't just close to the family, but was also one of Brooke's best friends and collaborators on Brooke Knows Best. That same year, Plant confirmed the relationship in an interview with the National Enquirer, admitting, "My relationship with Terry began at a time when Terry and Linda privately knew their marriage was ending." She later explained that she and Hulk had already separated, even though no official divorce papers had been filed, saying, "It seemed right at the time, but I know it was wrong," and expressing deep regret for the pain she caused Brooke. "The guilt and pain built up, so I gave Brooke a note apologizing for my actions. I will never be able to fully forgive myself for this. I lost an amazing friend." For Brooke, the betrayal was devastating. Not only had her father cheated on her mother, but with someone she loved and trusted like family. The emotional impact was immediate and overwhelming, and in 2008, she posted a heartfelt message on MySpace, later deleted, that read, "When your best friend and one of your closest family members, people you've loved unconditionally since your first day on this earth, betray you together, you might someday find it in your heart to forgive. But you will never forget the hurt they caused you or how deeply it hurt the people you love the most." Linda Hogan filed for divorce in Pinellas County, Florida, in November 2007, a move that reportedly caught Hulk by surprise, as he learned about it not from her, but from a St. Petersburg Times reporter. The divorce became a public 2-year legal battle over their estimated $30 million fortune, made even messier by the absence of a prenuptial agreement. When it finally ended in July 2009, Linda received roughly 70% of the couple's liquid assets, a $3 million property settlement, 40% ownership of Hulk's companies, and several luxury cars. It was a massive financial hit for Hulk Hogan, but the emotional cost to the family was far greater, marking the true collapse of wrestling's most famous household. As the Hogan family struggled to recover from the chaos of Nick's legal troubles and the bitter divorce, an even more explosive scandal was quietly waiting to surface, one that would redefine Hulk Hogan's public image forever. Between 2006 and 2007, Hogan was secretly recorded during a sexual encounter with Heather Clem, the wife of his close friend and radio personality, Bubba the Love Sponge. The tape, made without Hogan's consent, not only captured the private act itself, but also included shocking conversations in which Hogan made racist remarks that would later devastate his career. In October 2012, Gawker Media published a portion of the sex tape online, igniting a media firestorm and prompting Hogan to file a $100 million lawsuit for invasion of privacy, infringement of personality rights, and emotional distress. The courtroom battle, Bolia vs. Gawker, became one of the most high-profile celebrity privacy cases in history. On March 18, 2016, the jury sided with Hogan, awarding him $115 million in compensatory damages and another $25 million in punitive damages. Gawker eventually settled for $31 million later that year, forcing the company into bankruptcy. During the trial, it was revealed that Silicon Valley billionaire Peter Thiel had secretly bankrolled Hogan's legal fight as revenge against Gawker for outing him as gay back in 2007, a stunning twist that added yet another layer of intrigue to one of the most scandalous chapters in modern celebrity history.
That's right, and even if we would have lost, it would have been good because everybody would have known what Gawker was all about, because I exposed them and what they do and how they look at the world, which to me is very, very scary.
But the legal victory came at a tremendous personal cost. The very tape that brought Hogan millions in damages also exposed the racist remarks that would ultimately dismantle his legacy. When those comments surfaced publicly in 2015, Hogan was swiftly erased from WWE's Hall of Fame listings, merchandise, and broadcasts, effectively exiled from the industry he helped build. The fallout extended far beyond the ring. It fractured his already fragile relationship with his children and deepened the emotional rift within the family. Meanwhile, the rest of the Hogans were fighting their own battles. In 2008, Linda began dating 19-year-old Charlie Hill, a relationship that drew heavy media scrutiny and ended in 2012 after a failed televised proposal. Hogan, too, sought stability in new relationships, marrying makeup artist Jennifer McDaniel in 2010, only to divorce her in 2022 before marrying yoga instructor Sky Daly in 2023. Yet, despite the new beginnings, the old wounds never healed. By March 2025, Linda was back in the spotlight, posting tearful Instagram videos accusing Hulk of destroying their family and claiming his lies and infidelities had poisoned everything they built together. It was a public unraveling that suggested, even decades later, the Hogan family's story remained one of fame, betrayal, and unfinished pain.
It's been 15 or longer years since I got left HulkHogan, and my family is in the worst mess. Brooke doesn't talk to us. She's had twins. She got married. She didn't tell us. She had twins. She didn't tell us. She had a huge fight with Terry. I don't know how that reflected onto me, but she cut me out too. I haven't talked to her for 7 years.
The Hogan family's collapse had reached a point of no return. The bonds that once held them together were now irreparably broken, replaced by silence and distance. Even major life events, once moments of shared joy, passed without acknowledgement between them. Brooke, who had once been her father's pride and joy, had completely withdrawn from both parents. She married in 2022 without inviting Hulk, and by 2025, she welcomed twins into the world without informing either her mother or father. The estrangement was total a quiet but devastating statement on the damage done. Nick, meanwhile, continued down a troubled path. On November 18, 2023, he was arrested for DUI in Clearwater, the same city where his 2007 crash had destroyed 2 young lives. After failing sobriety tests and refusing a breathalyzer, he pled no contest and on June 21, 2024, was sentenced to 1 year of probation. For many, it was a haunting echo of the past, a sign that the cycle of recklessness and regret within the Hogan family had never truly been broken. The young man, who had once been a central figure on the family's reality show, had become a cautionary tale about privilege, recklessness, and consequence. Yet the Hogan family's struggles were only part of the story. Hulk himself was quietly battling a series of severe health problems that were gradually destroying his body, and it would eventually play a role in his untimely death. The combination of professional scandals, family turmoil, and physical decline created a perfect storm that no amount of fame or fortune could withstand. Hulk Hogan's final battle was as much against his own body as it was against the public controversies that had defined his later years. His physical decline was inseparable from his wrestling career, which began in 1977 and saw him rise to iconic status as the real American, recognizable for his yellow and red attire and his signature leg drop. But what thrilled fans in the ring came at a hidden cost. That finishing move, repeated thousands of times over decades, left lasting damage to his hips and knees. In a candid 2019 interview, Hogan admitted he often regretted the move, reflecting on the physical toll it had taken and expressing a wish that he could go back and change it.
All those years dropping that leg in those rings, with the board sticking up, laying on my tailbone, oh my God, what was that, a rock in the ring? Oh my God, was that a board sticking up? All those years dropping the leg, I would have changed that, and I would have never dropped the leg.
The leg drop, repeated more than 300 times a year at the height of his career, caused repeated trauma that contributed to serious conditions like spinal stenosis, spondylolisthesis, and disc damage. The physical demands on Hogan were staggering during his prime. He wrestled 400 to 450 matches a year, spent roughly 300 days traveling, and performed in environments that would be considered unsafe by today's standards. By the time he retired from active competition in 2012, his body had endured a brutal toll, including at least 10 back surgeries, part of a larger total of 25 surgeries over the final decade of his life.
Also pain management.
Yeah, that's a whole nother trip, brother, because I've had 25 surgeries in the last 10 years. So when people say, hey, the wrestling's fake, it goes right up my ass.
Hogan's long list of surgeries included spinal fusions, knee and hip replacements, shoulder operations, and procedures on his eyes and abdomen. In January 2013, he filed a $50 million medical malpractice lawsuit against the Laser Spine Institute, claiming that they had performed unnecessary and ineffective spinal surgeries that actually worsened his condition. The lawsuit alleged that 6 procedures over 19 months provided only brief relief of 2 to 3 weeks each, while destabilizing his spine further. Yet the physical pain was only one part of Hogan's health struggles. The relentless surgeries led to a dangerous dependence on prescription painkillers, bringing him perilously close to death. On Joe Rogan's podcast, Hogan gave a harrowing account of his near-fatal encounter with fentanyl, describing how the addiction and its risks almost ended his life.
The thing that stopped me, the thing that shut me down completely, where I said enough's enough, is when they hit me with the fentanyl stuff. They almost killed me with that stuff. So that's when I said, I'm done.
Hogan's addiction to prescription painkillers became a vicious cycle, with doctors continuing to prescribe medications even after he had technically recovered, keeping him trapped in dependency. The withdrawal process was equally brutal, and Hogan recounted it as a traumatic ordeal that tested his physical and mental limits, pushing him to the brink of despair while highlighting the hidden dangers behind the glitz of his wrestling career.
And I sweated through the bed, all the way through the mattress and stuff several times. I had people come in and check on me, and I saw my ex-wife's teeth come out and talk to me. I saw a plastic squirt gun come out of her chest, and this is coming off the fentanyl.
When Hogan finally overcame his prescription painkiller addiction, he had lost 35 pounds and promised himself never to return to those medications. Instead, turning to CBD products for pain management and making major lifestyle changes, including quitting alcohol in early 2023 and shedding another 40 pounds. In 2025, his health took a serious turn. In May, he underwent a 4-level anterior cervical discectomy fusion on his neck, initially described by his team as minor. Complications soon emerged, including an adverse reaction that caused temporary loss of speech and required prolonged hospitalization. His wife, Sky Daly, publicly dismissed concerns, insisting his heart was strong and that he was recovering well, while longtime friend Jimmy Hart claimed on July 22, 2025, that Hogan was doing phenomenal and had even gone to karaoke the night before. Yet behind the assurances, Hogan's condition was worsening. In his final weeks, he canceled appearances, looked pale, and complained of chest pains and fatigue, refusing further medical intervention and relying instead on alternative treatments like CBD oils and acupuncture. He skipped a scheduled cardiology appointment and vowed not to undergo additional surgeries or hospital visits. On July 24, 2025, at 9:51 a.m., emergency services responded to his Clearwater, Florida, home after a call reporting cardiac arrest. Clearwater Police Major Nate Burnside confirmed he was experiencing a serious medical emergency, and Hogan was pronounced dead at Morton Plant Hospital at 11:17 a.m. In the context of his family's complete estrangement, Hogan's final months were especially tragic. Although he became a grandfather to twins in January 2025, he never showed interest in meeting them. His daughter Brooke had been estranged from him for nearly 2 years before his death, with their last conversation taking place in September 2023. Even his ex-wife, Linda, despite their bitter divorce, continued to express love for him as the father of her children. When Hogan passed away, he left behind not only a wrestling legacy, but also a family in ruins. Brooke's emotional tribute revealed the complexity of their relationship, describing their bond as spiritual and unbreakable, even through years of silence. Perhaps most heartbreaking was the revelation that she had removed herself from his will in 2023, rejecting any part of the fortune that had brought so much pain. The man who once told millions of children to say your prayers and eat your vitamins had failed to follow his own advice in the most important areas of life: humility, honesty, and unconditional love for family. In the end, that failure cost him everything that truly mattered: